Sean Connery built his legacy on control. From the moment he first appeared as James Bond in Dr. No, he projected authority without effort. His voice, his posture, even the way he paused between words, it all carried weight. But behind that calm exterior was a fiercely opinionated actor who had little patience for what he considered nonsense. Sean Connery didn't chase approval, and he certainly didn't pretend to get along with everyone in Hollywood. If he respected you, it showed. If he didn't, that also showed. Connery came from a working-class background in Edinburgh, and that upbringing shaped his worldview. He valued discipline, professionalism, and above all, respect for the craft. Acting, to him, wasn't about ego, it was about truth within the performance. So when he encountered actors whose styles clashed with his own, or whose behavior disrupted the work, friction was inevitable. Over the years, several high-profile collaborations revealed just how little tolerance Connery had for certain personalities. One of the most talked-about tensions in Connery's career was with Richard Gere during the early development of King David. Though Connery eventually stepped away from the project, report from that period suggested a creative disconnect between the two men. Gere, known for a more introspective and sometimes spiritual approach to his roles, approached acting with a very different energy. Connery, by contrast, was direct, practical, and grounded. He believed in hitting marks, delivering lines with precision, and maintaining control over a scene. The difference in philosophy created an immediate divide. Connery reportedly found Gere's approach overly internal and, at times, self-indulgent. For him, acting needed clarity, not abstraction. He preferred actors who could externalize emotion in a way that served the audience immediately, rather than forcing viewers to interpret layers of internal process. The contrast between Gere's meditative style and Connery's straightforward execution meant that creative alignment was difficult from the beginning. Connery was also known to value efficiency on set, and he believed that overanalysis could slow down the rhythm of production. In his view, too much internal focus risked disconnecting the performance from the audience. While the collaboration never fully materialized, the experience reinforced Connery's belief that not all actors speak the same creative language, and that compatibility in approach was just as important as talent. A more concrete and widely known tension existed between Connery and Harrison Ford during the filming of Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. On screen, their chemistry as father and son was effortless, sharp, witty, and full of mutual respect. Off-screen, however, their working styles occasionally clashed. Ford was known for his improvisational instincts and willingness to adjust dialogue on the fly, often reshaping scenes in the moment to make them feel more natural. Connery, on the other hand, preferred structure. He believed the script existed for a reason and that deviations should be carefully considered rather than spontaneous. There were moments where Connery reportedly questioned whether improvisation diluted the strength of the written material. At the same time, Ford viewed spontaneity as a tool for realism. Despite these differences, both men recognized each other's strengths. Connery understood that Ford's unpredictability added energy, while Ford acknowledged Connery's precision brought authority. Still, behind the scenes, the two occasionally debated the balance between instinct and preparation. Connery often leaned toward discipline, while Ford leaned toward discovery. The subtle push and pull between control and improvisation ultimately enhanced their dynamic, making their interactions feel both authentic and layered, even if the process behind the scenes required patience from both sides. Connery also had a famously uneasy relationship with Kevin Costner during the making of The Untouchables. Costner, still establishing himself as a leading man at the time, approached the role with intensity and a desire to prove himself. Connery, already a global icon, had little interest in on-set hierarchy or ego battles. What reportedly irritated him was not Costner's ambition, but what he perceived as a lack of efficiency. Connery valued actors who could deliver consistently without overthinking the process. He believed that too much internalization could slow down production and dilute the clarity of a performance. Costner's dedication sometimes translated into repeated takes and careful recalibration, which contrasted sharply with Connery's preference for decisiveness. Connery often trusted his instincts and moved forward, whereas Costner sought refinement through repetition. This difference occasionally created tension, particularly during emotionally demanding scenes where pacing was crucial. While their scenes together were effective, Connery remained privately critical of what he saw as unnecessary complication. Despite this, he delivered an Oscar-winning performance, proving that even in less-than-ideal circumstances, his focus never wavered and his standards remained unchanged. Another notable friction occurred with Michael Caine, though not in the form of hostility, but rather a philosophical difference. Both men came from working-class British backgrounds and shared a deep respect for the craft. However, their approaches diverged. Caine was known for his adaptability and ease, often blending seamlessly into ensembles and adjusting his performance based on the tone of the scene. Connery, by contrast, carried a more commanding presence and expected a certain level of control within a scene. He believed that authority on screen should not be diluted, even in collaborative environments. During their collaborations and public appearances, subtle differences in acting philosophy became apparent. Caine favored naturalism that blended into the story, while Connery emphasized presence that defined it. Connery often believed that a leading man should anchor the scene, giving it structure and direction, whereas Caine was comfortable allowing scenes to evolve more fluidly. It wasn't a rivalry, but it was a contrast that highlighted Connery's strong opinions about how acting should be executed. He respected Caine's talent, but he remained firm in his belief that a leading man should never disappear entirely into the background. Perhaps the most revealing example of Connery's intolerance for certain behaviors came in his interactions with Roger Moore, the man who succeeded him as James Bond. While the two maintained a cordial public relationship, Connery was openly critical of the tonal shift in the Bond films during Moore's tenure. Moore's portrayal leaned into humor and lightness, embracing a more playful version of the character. Connery, who had defined Bond as dangerous and controlled, saw this as a departure from what made the character compelling. He believed the role required edge, tension, and a sense of unpredictability rather than charm alone. Connery felt that leaning too heavily into humor risked turning Bond into a caricature rather than a credible figure. To him, Bond's strength came from restraint and underlying menace, not overt charm. Though his criticism was directed more at the direction of the films than more personally, it reflected Connery's unwillingness to compromise on what he believed was the correct interpretation of a character he had helped create. He saw Bond not just as a role, but as a legacy, and any shift away from that original tone was something he found difficult to accept. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more untold Hollywood stories. Hit the bell icon so you never miss an update, and I'll see you in the next one.